G'day guys, today we're going to be taking a look at the R36H. I got mine from the Factory Game Direct store on AliExpress for around $42 Australian delivered, including GST, during the last sale, but they do go for around $100 Australian on eBay. Before we get to the unboxing, I did notice on the front of the box it says HDMI output, but it absolutely does not have a HDMI port on this, and the RK3326 does not support HDMI video out. I have noticed different boxes online also mention HDMI out, so I'm not too sure what's going on there. Taking the lid off, we can immediately see our handheld in a little plastic bag, and removing it from the bag, we can see there is a small piece of foam on top, and underneath is our handheld. Taking the plastic tray out reveals the rest of our goodies. We have the alcohol wipes for putting the screen protector on, our screen protector, a small pamphlet, which does mention HDMI in the middle, which is interesting, and also our USB-A to USB-C cable. Here's a close-up view of the pamphlet, and you can clearly see it says HDMI out, but it does not have that in real life. That is interesting. Opening the manual, it does mention the common shortcuts and charging instructions. It also mentions how to change these settings to make it read from SD card slot 2 for ROMs. And this is the other side. It does look like the manual is back to front. The R36H has identical specs to the R36S, with the main difference between the two, apart from the obvious form factor, is the lack of a function button. This unit is powered by the same RK3326 CPU, 1GB of DDR3 RAM, a 3.5-inch 640 by 480 IPS display, with no built-in Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or internal storage. It's worth noting most of these units have a place on the PCB where you can solder a Wi-Fi module to, and some Reddit users have reported their R36Hs arriving with the Wi-Fi module pre-installed. If you do have the Wi-Fi module soldered to the PCB, you do lose access to your OTG port. That is definitely something to keep in mind. Taking a look around the device, you have your start and select buttons at the top, your two joysticks, they do click in for additional buttons, a D-pad on the bottom left, your A, B, X and Y buttons on the top right. On the top of the unit, you have your L1, L2, R1, R2 buttons, volume, up and down, power, and reset. You'll notice there is definitely no HDMI port in the middle, even though the box and the manual both claim there is. There is nothing on the right hand side, there is nothing on the left hand side. On the bottom, you have a USB-C charging port, SD slot 2, which is only for games, headphone socket, SD slot 1, which is for the OS and the games, and a USB-C OTG port. This allows you to connect things like wireless adapters, keyboards and mice, and flash drives, among other things. On the back, we have our battery cover, which is not screwed in. It does just slide on and off, as well as two grips. Annoyingly, my right-hand side one was put on wonky. You can see here, it is stuck down quite well with the adhesive. I may try and peel it off and clean it up and re-stick it correctly. That is a little bit annoying. To remove the battery cover, just slide it down like that, and it lifts off. And here we have our lithium pouch battery. Lifting the battery out, we can see there's not too much underneath. We do have our two RAM chips, and under this wonky grip is the spot where you would solder your wireless card to. There it is there. I have ordered a few different wireless PCBs that should be compatible with this R36H, and I'll definitely make a video on that in the future when they arrive. You can see it's pretty similar in size to the R36S. The R36H is slightly taller, and if we put them side by side, it's slightly thinner. Go to the side view, it's about the same thickness, maybe very slightly thinner as well. It really is just a horizontal R36S with basically the same footprint. Before we turn it on, I think we'll take the SD card out, pop it into our computer, and see how easy it is to copy ROMs onto it. We're over on our Windows 10 computer now. Just going to insert the stock SD card it came with into my cheap USB SD adapter, and we'll pop it into the computer. If it asks you to format, make sure you click cancel. It's very important. We can see our EasyROMs partition is there, and it is pretty much full to the brim. We've got 700 meg free, but no boot partition showed up. Taking a look in disk management, we can see there is in fact a boot partition on our SD card, but for some reason Windows didn't assign a drive letter. Just right click on it, go change drive letter, click add, click OK, and we can close it off now. You'll also notice the Linux partition, 6.5 gig. That is what Windows keeps wanting to format every time you put it in the computer. So make sure you always click cancel. Close this off. And here is our boot partition with an interesting little icon. There it is there, if I can open it up with paint. So there is our SD card icon. It's a bit strange. It does have the battery images, which usually indicates a clone. So that is interesting. There is also an empty text file called R36S V5. I'm guessing that is screen panel 5. Taking a look at the EasyROMs partition now, here are all of our systems. It does have DOS, which is a good sign. It is empty though. It also has J2ME, and here is our ports folder. It looks like ClassiCube, a music player, Willy Willy, and Stardew Valley is installed under ports, which is interesting. We'll definitely check that out. None of my R36S handhelds came with anything pre-installed in ports. If you did want to copy your own games over to this SD card, you would just copy the ROMs over to the correct system folder. For example, put your N64 games in the N64 folder. It's worth noting, the SD cards that are included in these handhelds are extremely low quality, and there is a very high chance they will corrupt at some point, and you'll either lose your save files or the system will no longer boot. It's definitely recommended to swap out your SD card with a genuine high quality one as soon as possible. With that said, we'll safely eject our SD card and pop it back into our R36H. We've put the stock SD card back on our R36H and we'll power it on. So it does seem like it's running some variation of ArcOS, or at least made to look like it. It claims the 9th of February build, so that's interesting, but we have no idea what tweaks and changes they've made, so it's likely some things won't work. That is just something to keep in mind. We'll scroll through all of the systems that come with a stock SD card. As you can see, both the ports and options menus were available. I think we'll try out a few systems and see how well they run. Starting off with the Nintendo 64, or Ultra 64 as it says here, which was the prototype name I believe. There are heaps of 64 games on this stock SD, which is awesome. So this is using the stock core, along with the default plugin, and it is running fine. There are obviously graphical glitches, which is to be expected with Nintendo 64 emulation. It does seem to run pretty much the same as it does on the R36S, which is not surprising since it is using the exact same hardware. With the lack of a function button, select should be the default hotkey, so select an X should bring up the RetroArch menu, and it does. Select an L3, which is the left joystick in, is actually fast forward toggle. So the same on the R36S. But save state is R1 on this one, and load state should be L1, and it is. Just move around, load state, yep, there you go. Start and select should quit out. Next, we'll try Nintendo DS. This does have a few more games. We'll try Mario Kart. Mario Kart DS seems to work perfectly fine. No issues, no lag, no stutters. As usual, L2 and R2 swap between the layouts and full screen or split screen. And pushing L3 in should bring up the drastic menu. And it does. So again, identical to the R36S. We'll try some Dreamcast, which is a little bit higher end. We'll try Giga Wing 2. So lower end Dreamcast games seem to work fine, but obviously higher end, more demanding games will struggle, but Giga Wing 2 perfectly playable. Next we'll try PlayStation 1. We'll go with classic Crash Bandicoot 2. Unsurprisingly, PlayStation 1 works perfectly. We'll try some PSP, and we'll go with Mega Man Maverick Hunter X. So these easier to run 2D PSP games work perfectly fine. Obviously, if you try to throw something more demanding at it, like God of War, it will struggle. You do get the occasional lag spike, but it doesn't really affect it too much. It is definitely still playable. Last up, we'll try some ports. So we've got ClassiCube, Music Player, Stardew Valley, and Willy Willy. We'll try ClassiCube. Obviously, we don't have Wi-Fi, so we'll just go down to Single Player. And it does quit us back to the main menu. We'll try that once more. Go down to Single Player, press Start. Unfortunately, it does just crash out. We'll try Stardew Valley. It has finally loaded. It did take around a minute, so it is a bit slow loading, but it seems to work fine. See if we can just keep everything as default and go Start. We do have to add a name. There we go. We can now go OK at the very bottom. And we're finally in the game. There was a 3 or 4 minute unskippable cutscene, but we're through that now. It does seem to work perfectly fine. I've never really played this game before, but I do know it is quite popular online, and it is pretty cool that it comes with it out of the box. Obviously, it's not a genuine copy. They have just used the game files. I think for some people, this would be a great little portable Stardew Valley machine. Pressing Start brings up the menu. Start and Select does quit out of it. I think next we'll try Wi-Fi tethering from my phone. So we'll just go to Options, go down to Network Info, open that up. We'll leave it on this screen for now. I'm just going to connect a USB-C to USB-A adapter to a USB-A to USB-C cable. I'll plug one end into the OTG port on the R36H, and I'll plug the other end into my Android phone. Hopefully USB tethering enables, which it did. We'll tap USB tethering. We'll go back to network info, and hopefully we do have network, and we do. So there we are there. The R36H does support USB tethering. So does the R36S, but the R36S clones do not. You obviously could also use a wireless USB adapter, but I find tethering to your phone to be a lot easier. Overall, it's a great little system. It performs identical to the R36S, which is not surprising. Pretty much any guides you see for the R36S will also work on the R36H, which is great. Some people prefer vertical formats, others horizontal, so this does give you another option. It only costs a few dollars more than the R36S, so the price is pretty similar. You don't really notice the lack of a function button, so that's no big deal. If you're considering getting an R36H as your first device, it is a great option for lower end systems, sort of up to PS1. PSP and Dreamcast is a bit hit or miss. Lower end games work fine, but anything more demanding is pretty bad. And Nintendo 64 is mostly okay. Some of the more popular ones like Legend of Zelda and Mario 64 work pretty much fine. There are a few graphical glitches and some slight slowdowns every now and then, but still definitely playable. Things like GoldenEye does run quite slow. Conker's Bad Fur Day does run really poorly, and I would say it's not really playable. I will be doing a fresh install of ArcOS onto a fresh SD card, and we'll see how the installation process differs from the R36S. I think that'll do it for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Otherwise, thanks for watching.